That's the juncture at which then I again was continuing to document a lot of community history. It was a juncture at which I befriended and was involved with folks who were active in the Alaska Cannery Workers Association, Gene Viernes and Salme Domingo. And I would help them with many things, including putting together flyers and brochures and booklets for as they were trying to reform the union. Because my skills at that time had developed to being sort of an editor, writer, designer kind of, and then I got a chance to be involved sort of in the movement on that front. And I was involved, again, in just a lot of more community projects. The International District Economic Association in its early years when they were trying to organize the business people to come together. There was also a group called Alternatives for Women. It was an organization that promoted non-traditional employment for women, apprenticeships and so forth. I worked with Seattle Rape Relief on translating some brochures. I worked with the American Friends Service Committee on some of their South Africa work. Neighborhood House on some of their tenant-related stuff. I also worked with the school district on around the issue of, at the time, the schools were desegregating, and so I worked with the Coalition for Quality Integrated Education around stuff. So there's a myriad of things I can't really even, I wasn't trying to compile a resume or portfolio, but I had the opportunity to work on a lot of interesting stuff. The National Committee to overturn the Bakke decision. I was involved as their media kind of coordinator, and so I was involved in the organizing demonstrations and publicity around that. There's a group called the Chinese for Affirmative Action, which no longer exists, and there's the beginnings of what now has emerged as Organization of Chinese Americans, national organization. I worked with Lori Matsukawa on forming the Seattle chapter of the Asian American Journalists Association. There's an organization called the Northwest Minority Publishers Association, and I was involved with a group of them as they were first starting and pushing and promoting the issue of firms and companies advertising in minority publications, which many of the department stores and businesses were not doing at the time. So there's a lot of stuff, which is probably too long to kind of encapsulate here, but just to say that as I became involved in some of the documenting of the community, it's inevitable you become involved in the issues, particularly if, for me, a lot of the issues resonated, the issues of discrimination, affirmative action, touched me very personally. When there were some folks trying to organize some of the garment workers, Chinese women, because there was no, they didn't provide an interpreter. The union didn't provide an interpreter, so the women had no ability to even vote on their contract. And this is, even though the industry is, mostly non-English speaking immigrant women, that was an issue I felt, I could cover, but then I needed to help advocate and educate around when issues of, worker rights and justice come up. That's something, obviously, I feel very strongly about, because my father's working there all his life. He has no retirement. He has no sick leave. When he gets sick, what he has to do is he has to pay another waiter to come work for him, to fill in for him. And he, during the time I was growing up, started work at 11, got off work at 2 o'clock in the morning, got $1.25 an hour, no benefits, and worked 7 days a week. Now, the unions themselves were not necessarily the solution, because many of the unions were racist. So a lot of these issues touched me personally, because I was, personally connected to a lot of these issues. The stadium and its impact on the neighborhood and the threat from the traffic and congestion and pollution touched me personally, because I have relatives that live down here in the housing projects, and they're little hot plates and no heat and rodent infested. So for me, it was important to speak out on those issues because it affected me personally.